Lost Art with Andrew Cox, retired Master Gunnery Sergeant. thelostart.podbean.com. Get some merchandise and help support the podcast in getting our veteran voices out for all to hear. Now on all major podcast platforms. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Be a guest, tell your veteran story, discuss your veteran business or organization. Email The Lost Art with Andrew Cox at gmail.com. Andrew Cox, a Till Valhalla Project Ambassador. See the project story at tillvalhallaproject.com. Thanks for tuning in. Please enjoy the podcast that's giving a voice to our veterans. The Lost Art with Andrew Cox.
Well, hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Lost Art Podcast, that podcast giving a voice to our veterans. I'm your host, Andrew Cox, and today we'll be having a My Veteran Story with Lynn Lowder. But before we get into that, are you enjoying the episodes? Then make sure you go to the website. That's thelostart.podbean.com. Go check it out, see what we're all about. We do have a merchandise tab if you want to help support us getting our veteran voices out for all to hear. You can get shirts, you can get hats, you can get cups, you can get all kinds of goodies. Also, I want to give a shout out to the Till Valhalla Project and for allowing me to be an ambassador for their project. They're doing amazing things. If you don't know about them, please go to their website, tillvalhallaproject.com. Go check them out. And if there's any way you can help them out, please do so.
At one point there, and I've got a high school degree at this point. No, they didn't finish college. So what to do? So talking to Sandy, we decided that I would basically apply for a regular commission in the Marine Corps, stay in the Marines at that point. And then if I did that, then I would be required to go back to a college or university and get my degree. And that did happen later on. That was the next thing that happened once I got done there at Quantico and decided I would stick around. Went back, served with 2nd Battalion, 9th Marines. We were on ships for about half of the year, going around the Asia, different countries, and offloading from the ships and training and then getting back on the ships and going to the next port and so forth. Did that. And then I got orders to go to college. So I went to the University of Illinois. And I gotta tell you, Andrew, how in God's name I got into that university, I will never know. My GPA at at Northern Illinois had to be a C at best. And to this day, I honestly believe somebody on that admissions committee had to have taken pity on a Marine. Had to have.
Yeah.
So at any rate, and so I sociology, right? No math and science. So at when you go to class like you're supposed to, on time, sit down in front, listen to what the professor says, take notes, review those notes, and then give them back the information they gave you, and you can get some decent grades. Who knew? So that was a revelation.
Yeah.
Had Sandy, of course, and we had our first. Skipped over a part. I was. Let me go back. So when I got my regular commission, I went for 2 years to the Philippines, and had a guard company there. The main security for the main side of the entire base, a huge base, there in Subic Bay, Philippines, with 129, and then I went back, Brad. So that kind of takes you to that spot. Yeah. At that point, it was about 1975 or so.
Okay. Wow. So you said 75 is when you're went back to college?
I graduated 5 semesters at University of Illinois, got orders to go up to Chicago and train reserve Marines, called independent duty in the Marine Corps at that point. You needed to have a tour of independent duty, and that boiled down to 2 options: recruiting or training reserve Marines. So I had orders, 2nd Battalion Marines 224, a Marine Infantry Reserve Unit up on Foster Avenue in the north side of Chicago. Did that for a year. Decided that maybe I would take a shot at becoming a lawyer. And I just had been out of undergrad, but I applied for the excess leave program law
Hmm.
and got picked up. So
Wow.
now I'm headed to DePaul University College of Law. If you my hometown, Andrew, if you and I could go back in time, but
Yeah.
I'm off to the side, so I'm watching and listening, but you're talking to people in my hometown. And if you would have said something like, that guy Lynn Lowder, yeah. Well, when he grows up, he's going to be involved with the law. And they would have said, yeah, Joliet Penal Institution, and they would have been about right. They would have been about right. Not a lawyer. No, no, no. But on the receiving end of the criminal justice system, I was
Right.
yeah, I was a youth that needed direction and focus. So, as I said,
Uh,
Gunner Sergeant Bell gave me that. So,
Absolutely, yeah. Put you on the right path. And then
yeah,
being able now, you're going up. A law degree is not an easy go to get. So taking what you've learned, the discipline, and all those types of things, now you can apply it to law school as well.
absolutely. And in many ways, Andrew, it was the same. Not that, not to elevate law to any great degree at all. God knows we have enough lawyers in this country, but I'm thinking about later on, what am I going to do? When I
Hmm.
get out of the Marine Corps. So I thought, well, and I had a couple of friends actually, infantry guys that had done the same thing, and one of them, a guy named Homer Brookshire from North Carolina, by the way,
Hmm.
good guy, good guy, kind of I would say he's just was a good guy, no,
Hmm.
North Carolina guy. And I ran into him when I was there in Okinawa, 74. And he was one of these guys, I'm in love with the Marine Corps. I'm married to the Marine Corps. I'm going to stay in the Marine Corps for eternity. That's my home forever.
Yeah.
So I see him in Okinawa. It's been years now since I had seen him before when we were going through training. And we're talking, and I said, "So what are you doing?" He said, "I'm getting out." And I think I said, "What? Getting out of the Marine Corps?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "What are you going to do?" He said, "I'm going to law school." Andrew, as God is my witness, when he said that, I thought, holy mackerel, if Homer can be a lawyer, gosh, maybe I could be a lawyer.
There's
That's
there's
really
hope
was
for
this.
me.
That's it. That's where the seed got planted. And so then when I went to Illinois, I'd have to walk by the College of Law in Illinois. I'd look over there and they had different, signs and things about the importance of law and all that. And I think it kind of grew in that year and a half that I was in Illinois. I thought maybe I could do it. But,
Right.
same thing, the self-discipline part. When other
Hmm.
people are out, doing other things,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of studying, a lot of reading that goes on, but very much the same. You drink in a lot of information,
Hmm.
and then you give it back.
Right.
So I think when I got out of law school, I don't know if I ever felt more. Uh, I'm certainly not a brainy guy, but I felt, boy, my brain was there. I could absorb a lot of information and give it back. Kind of the bathtub result, though, once in front and move on. But law school was self-discipline. You gotta
Hmm.
really study. You gotta go after it. So that's kind of how that went.
Yeah. And now how long is the law degree? Is it a 2 year, 4 year thing? How long is that?
It's 3 years.
Three
The
years.
first year, yeah, there's a saying: the first year they work you to death. No, first year they scare you to death. The second year they work you to death, and the third year they bore you to death. So, and about two-thirds of it, honestly, is business related. That's why a lot in business you're taking courses, commercial paper, corporations,
Yeah.
tax, things, business related courses, your second and third year. So you do come out with a lot of information that's business related. But it's a
Hmm.
3 year curriculum. Then you take a bar exam if you want to be admitted to a bar in the state and move on from there. The Marine Corps and the take our law school graduates and they go to Naval Justice School, and it was in Newport, Rhode Island. And so you go there and you
Hmm.
learn elements of military law. And from there, you go to your first command as an attorney, as a JAG officer. That's how that went.
Oh, wow. And where was your first place that you ended up?
First place was my last place in the Marine Corps. I went to Marine Corps Development and Education Command at Marine
Mm,
Corps Base Quantico, Virginia, there in Northern
okay.
Virginia.
Yeah.
And I was a chief trial counsel for a period of time. I'd been promoted along the way there, and I was a major at this point.
Right.
So I actually had the supervision of 3 Marine captains below me. We were prosecuting. And then halfway through that tour, I shifted over to defense to be chief defense counsel. And I had 3 Marine captains there, all good people,
Hmm.
reporting under my supervision there. And got to know those guys really well. Still in touch with actually every one of them.
Oh, really?
So
Wow.
yeah, so you're trying cases and you're in court a lot. I mean, you are a lot. These aren't necessarily major capital offense cases,
Hmm.
but there is something to be said for even more simple. You learn to think on your feet. You are in court. You learn how to handle evidence, how to talk to a jury, how to make your case,
Hmm.
and be persuasive and hopefully impactful in what you say and do. You have to think these
Right.
concepts through. And one
Wow.
thing that I learned early on when I got to Quantico, they sent me to a criminal prosecutor's course at Northwestern University in Chicago. And
Hmm.
there was this long, lanky, kind of Abraham Lincoln-esque attorney that
Hmm.
they had brought, I think, from Alabama, deep south, and he was a speaker. And I think what he told, I still remember clearly what he said, and it applies in a lot of different things. But what I wanted to tell you was, it came time for him to speak. He got up there, and in that lethal Southern drawl that
Yeah.
jurors just love, small town lawyer, look out. He's going to saw your legs off. He gets up there and he said, I'm just happy to be here. I know some of you guys and gals are from major law schools around the country, and I'm just a country lawyer. They got me up here to talk to you. I'm going to be up here about 10 minutes. So he said, I'll tell you what I'm here to tell you. He said, you all think you're a lawyer, don't you? You all think you're a lawyer. And you all here are going to be trying cases, aren't you? And everybody's nodding their heads. He said, well, I'm here to tell you what you really are, as opposed to what you think you are. He said, what you really are is you're a salesman. He said, you're selling ideas, concepts, and theories. He said, but really importantly, so I want you to remember this. If you don't believe in your client's case and position, your infect you and will affect that jury. And he's absolutely right. That's how that went. So leave. It's just like leading Marines. If you're not in on depths of your soul committed, that's you're going to affect that unit, and you'll affect the result. And I learned that in trial work.
Hmm.
A jury will figure out if you're going through the motions or if you really are believing in what you're doing. They're looking for somebody to tell them the truth.
Yeah.
Tell us the truth. We'll make up our mind, but you tell us straight what's going on.
Hmm.
And for me, in my time in law, I really, my focus, I just wanted to get me the closing argument, get me the closing argument so I can tell them what happened. This is what I
Right.
told you I was going to tell you, and we told you, and I'm going to tell you what we told you. And
Wow.
that's what I learned. This country lawyer, I still remember it, said, you're a salesman. You sell ideas, concepts, and theories, period. And he was absolutely right.
Wow. Now, did you were you on both sides of the law, like the defendant and everything? Like, how did that work as a military lawyer?
Yes, I was prosecuting on the for my first year and a half. You're prosecuting offenses under the Uniform Code of Military Justice. Some
Got
can
it.
be extremely serious offenses, some less so. And then same thing, my last year and a half was on the defense side. When I left the Marine Corps in '83, came back to Chicago, I got hired in a law firm. One of my teammates from Northern Illinois University, wife, uh, she told him or alerted him to the fact that I was leaving the Marine Corps. He said, have Lynn get a hold of me. I did, got hired, and then got niched into professional malpractice work and in a defense law firm. We were defending people. And in my
Oh, I
case,
see.
defending doctors mostly in medical malpractice cases. That's some corporate work, but mostly medical malpractice defense. So all that
Wow.
experience in the Marine Corps carried over to what I was doing as a civilian lawyer. For
Mm-hmm.
about 23 years, I did that. And then I was looking to move on and do some other things. I wanted to get to corporate law, and I wanted to get into running companies. Another story with the way we're tweaked as Marines to fight as a team and so forth. I
Mm-hmm.
missed that greatly. You know, what I've learned in the nonprofit that I co-founded and what I've been doing for 13 years, helping veterans get into business for themselves and military
Right.
spouses. I learned that for veterans, a 9 to 5 job for money will never work. There has got to be an element of service and a higher calling and team play. We do. And in the
Yeah.
environment where I found myself in law firms, it's very much a singular kind of approach. And,
Right.
you're really not developing a team and it's all about money. I remember talking to Sandy. I'd been doing civilian law for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point I said, I can't believe that this is what I was put on this earth to do. I said, I feel like I'm a money changer in the temple. Most of these cases, malpractice cases, Andrew, do settle. And I
Hmm.
told her, I said, I feel like a money changer in the temple. I feel like I'm here and I'm moving it over there. And the law firm takes a little in the middle and then you go home. And I said, this can't be what I'm here to do. And that started my matriculation into corporate law and then into running companies and then ultimately into it's other stops along the way, but into where I founded a nonprofit years ago, 13 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
to help veterans and military spouses become entrepreneurs and business for themselves. It's called Veteran Business Project. You can find us on the internet. We match veterans and military spouses that are looking to become entrepreneurs with existing businesses
Right.
looking to sell. There's a phenomenon now, Andrew, called the silver tsunami. It's going on all across America. It's the largest wealth transfer in the history of our country is going on right now.
Right.
And what that really boils down to is baby boomers that have got their own businesses and now they want to sell and retire. And very typically, their children don't want it.
Right.
So we got inquiries over time. We initially founded a nonprofit to go after the lack of access to capital that veterans have faced for some time.
Mm-hmm.
In the 9 years following World War II, 49.7% of our veterans became small business owner operators, almost 50%. And
Wow.
you and I know if that happened, more than 50% thought about it.
For
And
sure.
so in my hometown, Sullivan there, we had many businesses in town that had been founded by World War II veterans. Came
Mm-hmm.
home, came back, went over to First National Bank, where we had our version of George Bailey. If you've ever seen It's a Wonderful Life,
Great movie.
remember that? And Jimmy Stewart playing George Bailey, and
Yeah.
he would lend money based on their character,
Mm-hmm.
who they, but and by and large they were. Well, the
Right.
Sullivan, our version of George Bailey, he knew our parents, he knew you,
Mm-hmm.
grandparents, and so it worked. Well, post 9/11, as to the 49.7% after World War II, post 9/11, less than 5% of our veterans become small business owner operators. And that is for
Mm.
one principal reason, lack of access to capital. I found it interesting, Andrew. We will lend a college-bound teenager tens of thousands of dollars with no credit score collateral required. But a veteran who has taken time out of their life, you and I know this, and served our nation,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes at great sacrifice and so forth, we haven't found out a way to help them get a loan. I just said
Yeah.
this can't be. So we formed our nonprofit to go after that, and we have done we've done quite a few loans, but in the process, of that comes the calls from baby boomers who had heard about us and they want to get an introduction to a veteran or two. And that caused us to pivot our nonprofit right into that space, that vacuum that exists and still does. There are tons of these businesses that need to be bought and sold. And history has proven veterans do a very, very good job at rowing their own rowboat. So we've been doing that now for 13 years, and I'm gonna stop in a minute here. Small
You're
town
fine.
guy
You're
that
fine.
a small town guy that I am. My wife and I stood up a small town diner in Naperville, Illinois. It's called Rosie's Home Cooking. It's not cooking, it's cooking.
I love it.
There's a difference, as you well know.
Yeah.
We're cooking. So it's and it's gone over. The sign out front says Rosie's Home Cooking, veteran owned and operated.
Mm,
And this is my co-founder in Veteran Business Project is Dale Eisenberg, the son of a World War II pilot. He's
mm.
been in restauranting for 47 years. This guy knows
Oh,
what he's
wow.
doing. So I figured if I'm going to do this, I'd like to have the atomic first sergeant with me that knows everything about the
Yeah.
business. And he's taught me a great deal. But, for whoever's listening to this, I'll tell you, I've never been this happy, maybe since high school, this much at peace. Helping veterans and slinging hash in a small town diner. Probably should have been slinging hash in Sullivan since about 1964, because I am a small town Bubba. There's no question about it. And proudly so. Proudly so.
Yeah.
So, a sense of purpose, and you meet a lot of really good people,
hmm
serving good food, really good food. We work on that. I think you'd really like it. Balls in table. Over here on the other side is Rosie the Riveter. In my hometown, we had a Buster Brown shoe plant. 3,000 folks. World War II comes, the guys
hmm
leave, and the ladies in town went into that plant, and things went just fine. Probably went better, actually.
Yeah.
And they were cranking out, combat boots and so forth for a good amount of years, and it really backed our veterans play. So that was the genesis of the name Rosie's Home Cooking was Rosie. And honestly, we should have been throwing ticker tape parades for these ladies after, because we could not have won the war without them. They were involved in everything,
That's very
manufacturing
true.
planes and ships
hmm
and weapons and ammo. They did it all. And kind of brings you up to speed right now, actually. So
Okay.
helping military spouses, running a small town diner here in Naperville, Illinois, and really enjoying both of those
Yeah.
endeavors. This
Well,
is my tribe, Andrew. This is my tribe. It's where I belong.
hmm
It's where I have a sense of purpose, and that I can help veterans
yeah.
at home more effectively themselves too. They're trying to figure out, number one, who am I now?
hmm
Especially those that have seen action a lot. Who am I now? They wouldn't say it. That's what's going on.
Very
What's my
true.
lane in life? What am I going to do now? People have been going through a lot. It's like going from Mach 2 to 2 miles an hour. It's unnerving. It's
Yeah.
unsettling. It's disorienting. And for many of us, we grew up in the military. That's my identity. I am still a United States Marine. I will be till the
hmm
day I die. And that's how we are as veterans. That defines us
Very
for the
true.
rest of our life, and
hmm
proudly so.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a challenge for I think for find themselves. And then we have the suicide issue, and we can get
Mm.
into that a little bit if you want. I've learned a thing or two about that issue also along
That
the
is
way.
that is something that I close out every podcast with, and but it's and I don't know the answers to be able to help, other than tell people, hey, it's good to talk, talk to other
Mm.
veterans, because there are people out there going through what you've gone through, but I don't have all those answers. I know that, but if you have insight, I'd be more than happy to hear it, and I'm sure everybody else would too.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to say something about that. We changed the tagline on our nonprofit a few months ago, Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
Originally, we had Veteran Business Project. I got on my shirt here, and
Mm-hmm.
below that it would say "Getting Veterans into Business," and that is what we do, veterans and military spouses. Have you ever seen? There's a video out there from a guy. His name is Simon Sinek, Sinek. I don't know if you've ever seen this guy, but if you haven't, it's worth watching him.
Okay. I,
This
I I
guy,
may have, but I'm not sure.
yeah, if you saw his picture, I'm betting you'd recognize him. This guy is amazing, actually. He is one very, very perceptive, smart man.
Mm-hmm.
And he put out a video that I saw one evening, and it's called, and I recommend highly take a look at that.
Okay.
It's about a 5-minute video, and he makes the case that um, what's important is to understand why we're doing something. If people are asked, typically, well, I'm a bus driver or I'm a doctor, whatever. He says there's a thing called a golden circle. The At the hub of that circle is why. The next concentric circle out is how, and then the outermost circle is what. We usually
Mm-hmm.
start with what. What are you? And we tell him, I'm a doctor. Well, we know the how because he probably, he does this or he does that.
Right.
But people really want to know the why. And why is
Mm-hmm.
important, especially if you're going to go into business for yourself. It's got to be something that means something to you. We
Right.
really zero in on a veteran's values, their passions, and what they're good at. We can find a
Mm-hmm.
business that incorporates those things. Chances are we're going to be much more successful. Again, like we said
Absolutely.
before, a 9 to 5 job for money will never do it. Never do
Mm-hmm.
it. Got to be involved in just what you're doing. You're serving. You darn sure are.
Right.
So much your credit. At any rate, the it's finding yourself in that whole process is not an easy thing to do. But we do. I have learned this that, and I'm going to be down at Tampa in the
Mm.
next 3 weeks or so, speaking to a group of special operators. These are Tier 1 special operators, Army
Right.
Delta, Navy SEALs, Marine MARSOC, and the Air Force guys that function in that arena.
Right.
Top tier warriors in the country, arguably and the premier 501c3 that helps these tier 1 operators transition into civilian life. It's a very, very good program.
Mm.
And they wanted me to come down and to talk about entrepreneurship as an option
Right.
for these folks. So I step into a class. This was my first opportunity to do this some months ago. 3 of these folks in this room, and I'll tell you, these people are impressive. They are sharp. They are
Mm-hmm.
wired in. They are fit. They're good people and very
Right.
impressive. And most of them have had minimum 20 years of operational experience, if you can imagine that, and then up to
Wow.
over 30. So we are talking about Mach 2 to 2 miles an hour with these guys. That is for
Absolutely.
sure.
Yeah.
So I got in front of them. I said, I'm going to be here for about probably a half hour, maybe 40 minutes. Came down to talk to you about entrepreneurship. Why would that be important? And I said, there's one thing I want to say to you guys is that we need to understand that no one cares about us as much as we care for each other because no one gets us like we get each
Mm-hmm.
other. There's hearing and knowing. And if you've lived it, you know. Nothing
Right.
wrong with hearing it, but living it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, you guys are premier trigger pullers. These guys are warriors of the first order. And
Right.
as you know, several of the entities in DC, FBI, DOJ,
Mm-hmm.
they have teams of people that they can deploy into certain areas on a moment's notice. And these are
Right.
people like these people I'm seeing now. They've left the military, they formed their own consulting group, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
and they are on call and they get paid well to do some pretty interesting things. And these guys all know this. And I said, if you guys want to keep on pulling triggers, God bless you. Uh, I hope life is good for you. But I'm here to give you a different option than that.
Mm-hmm.
And the option is going into business for yourself. And then I say to them, I'm going to tell you why that's relevant, in my opinion, that I think you guys should be thinking about this. Number
Mm-hmm.
one, let's go back to World War II, guys, and what happened in the 9 years following two. 49.7% of our veterans became small business owners, and they were good at it. They did.
Mm-hmm.
And those were startups in the main, not buying existing businesses, starting from scratch.
Right.
Tougher go. 85% failure rate.
Oh, wow.
If people buy existing businesses, you've got customers, you've got cash flow, you've looked at their financials, you know everything about the company, and you've worked in there a while, so it's different, much
Hmm.
more of an opportunity. So I
Right.
said, so World War I established that veterans, number one, if they want to be in business for themselves, they richly deserve the opportunity. Two, 49.7% did it. And what happened? They were good at it. They were successful. So I said, think about that. If you did that, if you started a business for yourself. Now, businesses are not going to stay level and flat forever. It's either
Right.
going to tailor down or it's going to increase. And you
Mm-hmm.
are a special operator. So let's say you get in there and you decide, you know what, I'm going to grow my business. Well, that'd be a good idea. And when you do that, how about hiring our own kind? How about
Mm-hmm.
hiring more veterans so that you, being a special operator, when you talk, they're going to listen.
Mm-hmm.
So you can mentor them and inspire them and give them hope. And why is hope
Right.
important? You and I know, because hope is the last thing that leaves before they take that unfortunate option at 22 a day that's been going on for months, years. I don't
Right.
have an answer, Andrew, for every suicide out there. I don't have an answer for every one of those, but I have an answer that I know works.
Mm-hmm.
Entrepreneurship, being in business for yourself. So you're the captain of your own ship. You can create your own destiny. You don't have to worry about fitting in. And that is what goes on. They get out and they're trying to find a place where they feel like they fit in.
Right.
85% of our veterans do not make their first year employment anniversary. Second year, 65%. Why?
Mm.
They're looking and scanning and looking and scanning, and they're trying to find a place they fit in. At my age, I mean, I get very transparent with our veterans when I talk to them, and I basically say the following: I have done various things in business and law and different things, but again, Andrew, as God is my witness, I never felt I fully in any one
Mm-hmm.
of those jobs, not fully.
Right.
Like when that M16 bolt goes home and it locks in, click.
Right.
Never got the final click. Never did. But you know what? I do on this phone conversation with you, and I get it with Veteran Business Project, and I get it in that small town diner. We get a lot of people coming in. It's really it's a wonderful thing, and I'm loving it.
That is
Uh,
awesome.
this is my tribe. This is who I belong to. These
Mm-hmm.
are the people that mean the very most to me. People like yourself who have taken time out of their life to serve our country because they believe that America is worth sacrificing for. So that's
Absolutely.
what I've learned. And many of these people will find themselves being the captain of their own ship. You got to give them a reason to stick around.
Right.
If if nothing is working, if you're bouncing from job to job, you're not getting steady paychecks. You're not getting along with your family. You begin to think I'm a bird, forth, and so the circle starts
Mm-hmm.
circling that drain. And then the last thing is when the last flicker of hope goes, death. And that's why they, in too many cases, take that option out. So what we do is we offer hope, save lives through our V-Harmony matchmaking model, which is foundationed upon a one-on-one coaching relationship between the veteran and military spouse and the coach, who is a vetted entrepreneur. Andrew, our coaches have done it.
Mm.
They've done what the veterans wants to do. So it's not
Right.
theory. We're we're giving them real people and really good coaching, folks that have done it for real. When I was getting ready to go to combat, as I mentioned to you, I had those NCOs to lean on.
Right.
They were telling me when you see that, do this. It was just
Mm-hmm.
like that. You go into a canyon and it's boxed in up front and on sides. Count on it. They're up there. You know, put
Right.
your flankers out. Get up in there. Flush them out. On and on. Well, veterans want to know the real deal. They're
Yeah.
not interested in theory. They want to talk to people who've done it for real. And so that is what I've learned, and that's what I'm telling people. I don't have all the answers for suicide, but I have an answer that I know absolutely works. And it's that one-on-one relationship, helping them find their lane in life. That I know works.
That's awesome. Yeah, God bless you for that company and what you're doing there. It's incredible. And I am going to have you on the fireside chat to talk specifically about that in the near future. So we got to make sure that we get that going. But yeah, I'm ecstatic that you came on the podcast today. Thank you. And you've done some incredible things in your life, and you're an inspiration to a lot of people. So thank you.
God bless you, Andrew. Thank you for what you're doing. You are saving lives, buddy. You are. People, I don't know if not this podcast aside, I know you've done a lot of podcasts and people have told their stories. And
Hmm.
again, nothing happens by accident. The good Lord's in the middle of everything. Um, everything.
Very
If I
true.
could add one more thing, if it's
Yeah, go
okay,
ahead.
if we got a little extra time. I've had a conversation that I wanted to have with a lot of people, Andrew, over the years, and it came
Hmm.
to full bloom a few months ago. And I'm writing a book on it. It's called Christ and Combat.
Hmm.
I in middle age, I was in my 50s. I was in California, I was commuting, working, and um, going through one of those times in life where I was beginning to question some things. And I wanted to know this guy, Jesus Christ.
Hmm.
As I figured out, it's either true or it's not.
Right.
And if it's true, that's a pretty important thing. But what
Hmm.
is the truth? I want to find the truth, not doctrine. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like so many denominations, not down talking denominations per se, but you know, in our little town of Lovington we lived in for a while, Andrew, there were like 5 churches for 1,200 people. And I
Right.
remember telling my country mom, I said, Mom, if God's God and Jesus Jesus, why don't we all just in one church? Why do we have all
Hmm.
these churches in here? And she said, Son, people have just different ways of looking at things. That was my mom. Uh,
Right.
in the fourth, I asked her one time, Andrew, end of a day, we were pulling in laundry off a clothesline. Do you remember clotheslines?
Oh,
And
I do. I do. Yes.
yep,
Very much so.
sheets out there drying out and everything.
Hmm.
So I was helping her with taking clothes in off the clothesline. I said, Mom, what should I do when I grow up? And she said, Son, just help people.
Mm.
That country was just help people.
Wow.
She is so right. We're here to serve one another. You know that. Leadership,
Yeah.
if you go tomorrow and putting ahead of yourself, that's it. So
Mm.
topic. Anyway, I read everything and get my hands on, and of course from Bart Ehrman, who's a head of religious studies at the University of North Carolina there. He
Hmm.
wrote a book on the origins of the Bible. I didn't know about the Council of Nicaea. I never heard of that before. Different types of Christianity, and he was an emperor, the first emperor
Hmm.
of Rome, and he ordered all these guys to come to Constantinople. We're going to figure out what's true and what isn't. I didn't know
Right.
that. So I read about that and several other things. And I think at the end of the day, I began to ponder back what I did in combat and what I saw.
Hmm.
And this is what I want to speak about, and I want to write about it. Uh, on the issue, Jesus, was it real or was it not? Is it a fairy tale? He said he was the son of God. He said that the only way to his dad is through him. That's it.
Hmm.
Pretty bold statement.
Very much
Why?
so. Yeah.
That's a whopper. So But he said that. And we all, we killed him. He was killed.
Mhm.
And there are writings, that Roman writings, that go through a lot of this. I think he was around about a 3-year ministry, they believe, about age 30 to 33. He didn't
Mhm.
write anything, he was a nobody really. And he recruited 12 regular guys to,
Yeah.
go with him, and they'd watch him, and he'd say things, and he'd teach them different things and so forth. He knew what the from the very get-go.
Mhm.
He knows he's going to be taken out. He knows. I don't blame him. I don't that either.
Yeah.
But the Romans saw him. And what did his buddies do? Some of them told him they really believed who he said he was. They saw him do some pretty good on water's kind of cool.
Mhm.
What
Yeah.
veteran wouldn't want to have a friend that could turn water into not cheap wine, good wine? I mean, wouldn't that be? Can you
Yeah.
imagine that? You're talking a hero in the one. Hey, can you get a couple gallons of wine in here for us, buddy? He said, yeah, sure. That'd be cool. He brought
Yeah.
people back from the dead. He did some pretty spectacular stuff. Fed thousands
Mhm.
of people with a few loaves of bread and a few fish. They had seen this stuff, right?
Right.
But when the Romans come to pick him up to arrest him, what do? They sky out. They take off.
Mhm.
They got away from him. They didn't want to be identified what would happen.
Right.
They were afraid for losing their lives, and that mechanism, medically and so forth, primitive, is that fight or flight mechanism to
Mhm.
survive. To survive. We know the story. They arrested him. He was basically beaten horribly.
Mhm.
I don't know if you ever saw that movie, The Passion of
Oh
Christ.
yeah. Very good movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't watch. I actually could not watch that scene
Mhm.
where they were basically lashing him. I mean, they pummeled him. It was to watch, and so he went through that, and then they had him hump a cross uh,
Mhm.
up a hill, and where they nailed him to it, suffocation. The Romans were, so they made it really painful and tough.
Right.
But then I'm saying there were 2 times when I honestly, the core of my being, that it was done. We're going to be killed quickly,
Right.
soon. And what I did and what I saw other men do was you start cutting your deals with God right then and there.
Mm.
You get really, really straight, really quick. All
Right.
that human control and ego, all that kind of stuff goes right out the window. It's just you and eternity, and it's
Right.
happening real quick. So guys can pray and can fight at the same time. Sometimes you hear them, sometimes it's going on inside of them, but we're all doing the same thing. We're cutting our
Mhm.
deals with God. And what is that deal? It's basically, Father, please, please get us good.
Right.
I'll be your boy. I'll do what I'm going to cut your deal.
Mhm.
Well, how did these guys that took off on him, what eventually happened to them? And this is what I think uh, ministers could talk more about.
Mhm.
One took himself out. Judas,
Mhm.
he's the guy that turned him over. One guy of the 12 lived a full, was exiled to an island by a Roman emperor, and he lived out a full life. But in died, it's dramatic, Andrew. It's riveting,
Mhm.
I think. Couple died, I believe, in India, one guy in Turkey, one guy
Mm.
in Sudan, one guy in Britain. And Britain is a long, long walk from the Middle
Yeah.
East. To do what? To tell people about Jesus, to tell them who he was and what they saw. And every
Right.
one of them was killed for it, for what they did, what they said. When they didn't have to go
Mhm.
anywhere, didn't have to do anything, but they did. Guy
Right.
sawed in half. One guy was, a couple guys were hung upside down, crucified upside down. Peter was, didn't feel he was fit to be hung right side up. The Romans were happy to accommodate the upside down. It was dumped into a pot of boiling oil and so on and so forth. Now, here's my point. Don't lie, Andrew. If they can save themselves, they won't do it. Human nature and survival kicks in. I, one of all of them would have turned.
Yeah.
Said it. You got it was a lie. It wasn't true. We made it all up. Come with me and I'll show you where we buried the body. They didn't do that. This is how history went down. They all went down hard, died a horrible death. When I focused in on that, this is what I talk about to my audiences. I said, take a look at the people that were with him the most, that knew him the best. What did they do? Eventually, they died for their belief in him. And they had to shut their mouth and said nothing. They did only one reason that what they did. They saw him alive again. And when they did, and I'm in. I know who he is. I heard him say there he is, right there. You could see talk. Jesus. That's how I made my mind up that he's is, and that we're supposed to love his day all our whole, and we're supposed to love one another as we love each other.
Right.
At the end of our days, only two things will have mattered. Who did you help along life's path? Third version, and who you haul behind a hearse. Taking anything with us. Nothing wrong with having nice things, but they were never really not. They're temporary. They're on go to sleep, and so what? But all we're to love folks and to help along life's path. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to act like his kids. Race and gender and all this crazy stuff we get into, irrelevant. It's not the point.
Yeah.
If we could get that straight, the golden rule, if we could just get that straight, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, there's precious little we couldn't accomplish on this earth.
Very true.
But that's the challenge. So anyway, long story short, that's what if you ask me what have I learned in this walk in life, or as Senator Sam Ervin from South Carolina years ago, I heard him say this. He was getting ready to answer a question, and he said, well, he had a deep Southern accent. It was just really, really charming to hear. He said, well, on my journey, I've learned, and I that drove right into my head. So on my journey to the tomb, that's what I've learned. It's that. That's the essence of everything we're supposed to be and supposed to do.
Right.
And help each other, love each other. As my mom said, son, God love her, just help people.
Yes.
Go to Ethel Lowder, and she was on the money. God love her.
Yeah,
anyway,
she was.
I've yacked on a whole lot here, and I appreciate your patience, the opportunity to be here, and it's been an honor, Andrew. And thanks for what you're doing, brother. You're doing good things here.
Thank you very much. It's been excellent. So to all the listeners out there, if you're struggling and need some help, anything like that, you can always dial 988, press option 1. You can go to Veterans Crisis Line, click on the chat icon. You can also text 838-255. Any of those options are going to put you in contact with somebody that can help you out. But just remember, one veteran life loss is one too many. I care about you. I know Lynn cares about you. The whole veteran community cares about you. So please reach out for help. And if you're out there, you're not struggling, you're doing well, then call and reach out to your buddies that you served with and ask them how they're doing. If they need a helping hand, please help them. All right, Lynn, one last time, thank you. I appreciate you. You had some great stuff here, and I'm sure everybody else is going to love it just as much as me. So thanks again for coming on. Truly, truly an honor. To all the listeners out there, stay motivated, change your socks.